So if you take a look at the folder in front of you, you will see many facts that are enlightening about our current situation.
Okay, and we're radio ready. This is iHearIC Radio on KRUI in Iowa City. My name's Justin Comer. I'm the host of this show, where we showcase local musicians and other artists. In the studio with me today is my co-host, Carlos.
I'm back.
That's the first time he's heard the theme music.
Yes, I'm very pleased with the, let's say, 8-bit punk music.
Yeah, that's by my friend Jason Palomara. Anyone that's been listening regularly has already heard that a couple times, but Carlos enjoyed it. You could hear him laughing because his mic was on. And we have a guest in the studio with us today.
Hi.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
My name's Chris Weersema. I am the doer of a music series called Feed Me Weird Things here in Iowa City. I also am the program director for Mission Creek and Witching Hour.
Yes, things that I'm sure everyone listening is very aware of. This is the guy behind it all, the guy who does it, the doer.
And now we know how you pronounce his family name.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I was like 7 before I was able to nail it. It's probably like 9 when I figured out how to spell it.
Yeah, I was going to ask you before we started, just to make sure I knew how to pronounce it, but then I sort of did a workaround by asking you to introduce yourself. All right, so as you mentioned, Chris organizes the Feed Me Weird Things concert series, which has been going on for the past 2 weeks, I think is when you started this season.
Yeah, well, I think it's about 3 weeks now, but there was kind of a soft open with Matt Blair and you two of 3 Wombats, and now it's really going to start picking up. I've got 2 more performances this month, possibly a third with a reschedule, and then I believe there's 4 events in July, 1 in August, and then I'll go into the fall. So probably a total of 14 events when all is said and done for this year.
Awesome. And so that's going to go into the fall.
Yeah. All right. Some dates are still tenuous while I'm firming up things with artists and agents, but looking now, probably the first week of November will be its conclusion, because that's, nobody likes touring the Midwest in the winter.
Yeah.
And that's also for me when Mission Creek really becomes kind of all encompassing in terms of planning.
Mm-hmm. So how did you get started organizing this series in particular, Feed Me Weird Things?
Well, I've been a booker in town for probably about 15 or 16 years, but the series really came out of it actually initialized with a duo, Spires in the Sunset Rise, originally from Wisconsin. A 2-piece had asked me, because they were doing a very sort of special and regional tour with percussionist Michael Zaran, that they had collaborated with, particularly around this idea. They all of them had a connection to Decatur, Illinois, which, if you're not from there, you probably wouldn't know about it. It's kind of like a ag town that's seen much better days.
I've driven by. But
yeah.
I don't really know
you can smell it way before you get to it. But they wanted to do this very localized Midwestern tour, and they reached out to me. Prior to that, I had been just focused on the 2 festivals. So, but I'd known both of their works Spires had played here a few times, and it was like, well, I'm going to do this. Like, actually, I want to make a series out of this, and I guess it helped me recontextualize what I'd been trying to do with booking avant-garde and out sort of music in the festivals. It was a conversation that I didn't want to have just twice a year with people in the community. But I also wanted to have it in such a way that I wasn't focused on name recognition.
Yeah.
So the series was kind of born out of that. Like, well, maybe people will just come see things that are new, because the music that I'm trying to present is, even if you're familiar with the artist, it's instinctively new, because so much of it is improvised or has different sort of spatial requirements that make the sound new every time. So, yeah, so it really just kind of came out of that, and I've just been continuing on with it. Foolishly, some people have encouraged me, so I just keep going with it.
Yeah, there's a lot we can talk about there, but this was just last year that you started this?
It was.
Right? Okay,
yeah.
So this is a relatively new thing for you.
It is, and I wasn't even sure. I guess, as I mentioned, I'd been booking for a long time in town, and like anybody else who, I think anywhere who has booked music or for a while, you quit in frustration so many times that another part of doing the series was like, okay, if I just call it a series, it doesn't mean I have to continue doing it. Like it can just end, and that was done. And so I wasn't even sure that I was gonna do it this year. In fact, it wasn't until, again, a couple people reached out to me, and I couldn't not present their work. So it was like, okay, I'll do it again, because it's a large time and financial investment to do, or at least to do to the level that I want to do it.
Yeah, I definitely understand the temptation to quit. I think I've...
Yeah, exactly. I mean, doing iHearIC, it's like, like, am I just punishing my friends with my taste?
Yeah. I mean, we've had a really good few months. But we've had frustrations.
It was
in the
pretty
past.
rough at the beginning.
Yeah,
sure.
And then I think for me, it's also that we're finding the balance between, like, okay, it is in a way our concert series, but also it's not just for us.
Right.
So, like, because sometimes you go to a concert and it's like, well, this is not a concert that I would have been like super excited about.
Mm-hmm.
But then at the same time, you see some people that were excited about it. It's like, well, then who is this for? Like, it doesn't have to be just whatever I like, and that's it.
And that's a good point. That's also, I think, sort of where this series is like, it is like, I will not do anybody that I'm not passionate about. And lots of people say that.
Yeah.
Like, but either they don't mean it, or they are way more accepting than I am. But because I do that, and because I've got this outlet now, it means when I'm doing Mission Creek, I can be thinking way more about, like, okay, what do people want? Not just what do I want? Like, what do I want to put on people? It's, I mean, I don't need to name names, but every year there's artists where I'm like, let's do them, I guess. And then like 500 people show up to see them. And I'm like, what are you like? What is it about this? Is it just that it's warm in here and there are lights and sound and like what attracts you to this? So I mean, it's like it separates the doing something for me versus doing something for other people.
Mm-hmm. What would you think we do? I think
you
it's
kind of in between. Yeah,
I think we're trying to reach a lot of people.
Yeah,
and a variety of
and also kind of like the whole point of doing it in places like the Java House, or it's kind of like that. There's people there who don't even came for the concert; they're just there. And then you're just kind of like, well, surprise! Now you're listening to this weird.
We do sort of ambush people.
Yeah.
Which is good too, because I think another thing that we're constantly lacking is disruption. and like the benefits of disruption that cause people to recontextualize their space and like their agency in their space. And I don't know, I think you guys even do a greater service than, because you're both in the School of Music, than because from outside the School of Music, that has always been an impenetrable veil for people in the community. Because it's not like, I mean, you ask anybody about like, oh, well, there's a School of Music here, and people are like, yeah, the marching band's great. Because for a lot of people, that's their only interaction with people who are in the music program here. I mean, I think Voxman has done a huge service of, being downtown now and being open, but it's not like there's, a lot of, like, I know the public can go into Voxman, but I promise you, like probably 10 people who aren't in the program have gone inside.
Well, there are some days where there's a lot of people just in there, and there's only 2 elevators, so
oh, cool.
It has caused me to be late to things before.
Yeah, okay. I mean, there's a lot of people there studying. There's a lot of people there doing photo shoots.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Because it's a nice building.
Oh, okay. So it's just it's an architectural thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
They just want a nice background, so they go there.
There's like prom photos.
Totally.
Yep.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, at least they're closer to getting into the concert.
but so, I mean, iHearIC is great in that way that it, like, I don't know, it just makes people more aware of something other than the jazz series that takes place at the Mill, which is great. But again, that's like one aspect.
Yeah. I think the entire purpose of iHearIC when Jared started it was to bring together like the Iowa City music scene with the academic students.
Yeah.
And I think we still do that pretty well.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen bluegrass bands.
Yeah.
I think it's actually gotten even more eclectic than when Jared first ran it. Yeah.
Also, for those of you who don't know, Chris actually was involved with iHearIC way before we were involved with iHearIC.
I think I actually played the very first one.
Okay.
Were you in a band at the time? Okay, that's how you say that?
Yeah.
All right. I have a couple recordings of
everybody
your
says LWA, which is totally like, But yeah, that was a sound project that I had with a good friend of mine for 10 years. But yeah, we played the first one, and it was in the temporary music building because it was after the flood.
Right.
Oh, okay.
So it was in those kind of like retail places.
Yep.
It was where you look. Yeah. It was sparsely attended.
We've had a couple of those.
Yeah, there are a couple of surviving recordings, I think, of Loire performances. I played one on this show before.
Yeah, that's right. I caught that.
Nice.
And I
didn't know it was you at the time.
Yeah, no, and I'm the worst about it too. There's one summer I worked out at a community farm, and it was common, like around like lunchtime, everybody'd gather around, for a big family style meal, and they would just kind of throw tapes on, in the old grungy garage tape deck. And there was this one time, like, I was listening to this thing the whole lunch, and I'm like, God, what is this? Like, this is really good. Like, I keep expecting it to get bad, but it doesn't. Like, it verges, but no, this is great. And so, like, I went over and opened it, and I was like, oh crap, this is one of my recordings. And I just got mercilessly slayed for like the next month on that. So no, I'm terribly vain about that. I love it.
Yeah, they probably thought you were faking it.
Right. No, I mean, somebody was like, yeah,
this is
God.
Great, huh?
Yeah, they're like, yeah, God, here's $5. Give me a tape, dude. Like, just shut up.
All right. I need to play a public service announcement real quick. Let's see what we get.
Adopt US Kids presents.
Oh, I was hoping for the manatees.
You've messed up your daughter's haircut. Do you A, get spiritual?
Mom, where's the mirror?
Beauty is within.
Oh.
B, find the positives.
Less time blow drying, more time texting?
Or C, show empathy.
Mom, you really don't have to.
Twinsies!
I kinda love it. You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on adoption, visit adoptuskids.org. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Okay, adopt some children if you are able and desire that in your life. Somebody out there could use the help, I'm sure. Okay, we're back. Chris, do you want to tell us what the next Feed Me Weird Things show will be?
Oh yeah, I am. I'm really excited about that. That's going to be this upcoming Thursday, and I should have mentioned before that all of these performances are at the Trumpet Blossom Cafe. Right. Owned by a good friend of mine, Katie Myers. It's an incredible local organic vegan food, and I'm not a vegan, and I love eating there. But it's a great environment. So shout out to Katie, and much gratitude for letting me sometimes scare away your customers. But yeah, this Thursday is going to be with percussionist Sarah Hennies. She was one who reached out to me that, she reached out kind of out of the blue, and I was like, well, there's no way that I can't, that I can't do this. So yeah, she'll be performing a percussion-based piece that she's been touring a lot around, that it really focuses on, I guess, the sort of slight perceptible inaccuracies in the human machine when it comes to dealing with things like percussion and mechanization of sound, that, no matter how on time you think you are, after a certain really small duration, you will always slip out of time. And it's sort of her grasping as a percussionist with that. I guess like the clearest reference would be like Reich's phasing music. But I think this is even more subtle, and it's like her battle with herself to try and replicate something over and over again. So I guess it encapsulates this sort of ethos that make me want to do this series. Because, I think a lot of it how do I want to put this? It harkens back to when we went to shows not knowing what to expect. Mm-hmm. I mean, now, like everybody else, I roll over in the morning, grab my phone, look at the 6 show invites that I've got. Like, then I go, who are these dudes? And, a quick, a couple of thumb motions, and I'm able to watch the show they played last night and sort of make a snap judgment on poor replication without ever actually having the experience. So the music in this series, while it's not something you necessarily throw on in your car to go to the store, I mean, I do, but I'm a different beast. But it's important to be there for it. And I think you get a lot of understanding by being in this kind of music's presence, that it is, I think one of the easiest derided genres is like ambient. Yeah. Where people are like, it's just background music. And that was part of its founding, was intentionally background. But when you're in a space with that music, it can, depending on the physics of the sound, it can be bodily changing. So, yeah, I think with this series, I look to kind of find those moments where it's like, oh, you literally had to be there, to get the experience. And yeah, so it's Sarah this Thursday, and you guys know Ramin.
Yeah, Ramin. Yeah,
Ramin. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he'll be doing, he said, 3 improvised pieces, long form. So, I mean, I've listened to what he's got on the SoundCloud. I'm really, really interested to see what he's.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had him play on one of our shows. In the fall, and it was
That's
great.
Honestly, how I discovered him. I've stolen a lot.
I mean, that's good because these people need more gigs. So.
Well, and sometimes I wonder, it's like, you know, is it the music school or is it people just not not asking any of these people to play gigs?
Yeah.
Because I listen to so much of the music and it's like, this would have made perfect sense on X show that happened, you know, at a space. And it's like, I wonder if they just didn't ask them.
I think there's just not a lot of communication between certain people.
Yeah. No, I mean, it doesn't feel like people from school are trying to do a lot outside of school.
Sure. Well, it's encompassing. I mean...
Yeah, I think it's both ways.
Yeah, I wasn't really trying to do much when I was a student, so...
Yeah. No, I mean, even like if we didn't have iHearIC, I don't feel like I would be trying to present music outside.
Right.
Because I don't know, I mean, like you're already busy and like you already have performances.
Right. Yeah, you have an outlet for that already.
Right, yeah.
Which, I mean, in the end, is like you and everybody that you study with, that's your outlet.
Sure.
But...
And it's an informed audience. So, I mean, I think there's obviously merit to that. And now that I'm saying all of this, it's like there's not any other majors that were like, why aren't you doing this outside of school, English major? You know, like, why aren't you presenting your work pre-law?
Well, there are like poetry open mics.
Sure,
there's some of that.
Some of the liberal arts was a bad one to go in on. Maybe the STEM one. Like, I don't see anybody engineering anything around here.
Yeah, no, or even if we go into like visual arts.
Sure, I mean, yeah.
Not, yeah.
You see a little bit, but like, it's not representative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, also like I don't know if what we have is representative of school either.
Yeah.
No,
I mean, it's definitely like a subset of.
Yeah, and we do have a bias because it's like we don't know everyone in the school of music. We know like the composition department and the performers that play those compositions.
Yeah.
What was Sarah's last name on Thursday?
Hennies.
Hennies, okay.
Yeah.
I know that our friend Will was excited for that, but he's going to be out of town. So.
Oh, yeah.
It's always the person who's the most excited who is gone the day of the show. I think it'll be a rare treat. You know, a good audience for me is like 30 people. So I'm shooting for 30.
Yeah, great. Okay. You guys want to hear some music?
Please.
I have some stuff lined up here. Since we briefly mentioned ambient music, I have something by my friend Will Huff.
Oh, great.
I believe he released this a couple months ago. This is called Sky Space.
Cool.
All right, that was Sky Space by Will Huff. That's the version with piano. He has a version without as well.
Oh.
You can find his music at willhuff.bandcamp.com, I believe. And if you're just tuning in, this is iHearIC Radio on KRUI. My name's Justin. I've got Carlos co-hosting with me today, and we have Chris Wiersema in the studio hanging out with us, talking about what he does. What do you do?
Every day I ask. So I host the host. That's much better than doer.
Either way, that's ours.
Sorry, I was looking at you. The Feed Me Weird Things series here in Iowa City that presents impossible music for impossible people.
That's a great slogan. I like that.
I forget where I like everything else I do. There's no way I came up with that. I think it was maybe in an article where somebody was talking about music that just shouldn't exist.
Huh.
I think it started with Rites of Spring and, the famous riot over that, and just like atonal music and just music that just shouldn't be. And then impossible music, like things that no human couldn't possibly perform. And I think maybe I stole it out of that.
Yeah.
I mean, even the name of the series, I didn't come up with that either. It's a Square Pusher album.
Yes, right. Yeah, and the idea of music that's impossible for humans to play sort of plays into what Sarah Hennis will be playing.
Right.
It sounds like
percussion is impossible. You can't hit the same beat.
You won't be
endlessly.
You're not a drum machine.
Right.
Yeah. A human being cannot be as precise as a computer in that regard.
So thank you. That dovetails nicely. And that's this Thursday at the Trumpet Blossom.
That's right. Yes. And opening will be Ramin Rochandel, a friend of ours.
And I'm really, really excited to hear his work because he does two very different, or at least represents two very different things on his SoundCloud, which is the only exposure that I've had, which is actually probably listen to that SoundCloud more than any other SoundCloud, just because it's interesting, just because it will jump so broadly. So
I wanted to ask you about the art that you use in the Feed Me Weird Things programs and on your social media stuff.
Again, none of it mine. I think like a lot of programmers, I'm just really good at stealing. So first and foremost, the art is done by designer, musician, label owner, Tiny Little Hammers. And I'd like to say that we sort of collaborated on the art. That would be a gross
exaggeration.
Boast on my part. The idea, it's funny because I was actually talking to another programmer up in Detroit who mentioned the artwork. And it sort of evolved with the show posters. They're very text heavy, which I like. But again, I've been hanging up flyers since I was 14. So they're different. They're horizontal. Originally, it was like in my mind, it was going to be sort of like a J sleeve for cassettes. And
it is kind of designed that way, like two panels with a spine in the middle.
Yeah. But actually, what it looks most like is VHS covers, and that's what the programmer in Detroit was talking about, because he does some film work too, and he's like, oh, it's got this retro VHS feel, and it dawned on me. So again, I can take absolutely no credit that, like, oh, that actually is what I want, and it represents the series in a way that I want it to, where I'm giving some information and giving usually a bio on both of the performers, but it reminds me of when I was a kid and going to like Crow's Nest Video and then later Blockbuster Video, that like I mean, this is before YouTube and previews were available. Like, you just, because I'm old. But, like, all I knew was the image and then, like, the reverse side. And it was like, you know, your mom's waiting. You've got, like, 10 minutes or you're leaving without one. And it's like, oh, do I get Chud or, you know, do I get Shawshank Redemption? And, but it is sort of that, like, it is a package for the unknown.
Yeah.
And so, and Dylan is his name. I don't think he'd want me to reveal his full identity.
Ooh.
Yeah, he's a bit like that.
Inclusive.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, his aesthetic eye and narrative is far beyond. I think I'm still discovering new things about it. Every time there's a new artwork that he has, I honestly, I probably wouldn't do the series if it wasn't for him, because
cool.
It is. I mean, it is such an important aesthetic that I think differentiates it from everything else.
Yeah, it's a very cohesive series of pieces that I've seen so far. Yeah, it's very cool. Yeah. I need to interject with a weather report briefly. Current time is 4:32 p.m. The temperature is 78 degrees Fahrenheit. Carlos, can you give us the Celsius off the top of your head?
I can check again.
Yeah, Carlos is our Euro weather reporter.
27 degrees in the real temperature.
All right, the correct scientific temperature.
Yes.
0% precipitation, 31% humidity, and 20 mile per hour winds from the northwest.
That is.
It's a bit windy today. Yeah. But it's not as hot as it was earlier, so I'm liking that so far. All right. That concludes the weather report for today.
Okay.
While we're discussing art, you have sort of a collaboration going on soon in the art world.
Yes. And another shout out to another giant on whose shoulders I stand is Vera Rose Smith, who is a curator with the University of Iowa Stanley Museum of Art. She actually got in touch with me on the internet, like people do, about the series, and just she's like, we should get together for coffee, and it was weird because I didn't know, like, I thought it was just going to be like, hey, how's it going? We live in the same town. And she immediately went in to like, okay, what can the museum do with this series? Mm-hmm. Which completely caught me off guard. And so this has been in the last 7 days.
Yeah.
Came up and implemented an incredible partnership between myself and the Stanley Museum of Art, wherein, as a curator, she will locate several pieces. I think right now she's working with 4, may extend it, in the collection here, and that fit thematically, whether through methodology, general feeling, or societal circumstances that create these two sympathetic but not simulacra, basically. Mm-hmm. Just trying to connect the visual with the oral art, because I do think a lot of the music and sound that I'm fortunate enough to present falls for me much more in the world of art than it necessarily does in the dominant pop discourse of music.
Of course, yeah.
And I believe me, I've heard more people ask, "What is this?" and "Is the speaker broken?" than they've been like, "Man, this is catchy." And even that sort of like the rabble. common rabble. But I mean, it's the same thing when you go into an art museum and there's, without a doubt, some guy in an American flag T-shirt going, "My 6-year-old could paint this."
Yeah.
I mean, in this way also, these two forms are sympathetic to one another. But it's just it's an amazing opportunity. So that's something that the audience can experience by looking at these works online ahead of time. Obviously, they can go visit them, and they should, because the museum is free and is a cultural treasure that I think we too often let a day go by that we don't go visit it or are grateful and in awe of its collection. But so it's just another way for people to, it maybe gives people an anchor going into the performance, like just maybe in the back of their mind, or, maybe looking at it on their phone while it's ongoing, to engage critically with what they're experiencing, because both in art and in music, it's important in life. I mean, it's an important human thing to constantly have a critical mind. I think it's, too often we think of like punishing Yelp reviews when we hear the word critique, but it's more just a way to think about how we're processing the inundation of information that we're constantly receiving. And I think both in a museum setting and in a concert setting, it actually slows down the amount of information we're getting.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's a great time to sharpen these practices of critical thinking. And the Stanley Museum has created another way for attendees to this concert series to do that. And that's just the partnership from the audience perspective. From a partnership perspective, for me, it allows me to reach an audience that I think will enjoy these things that have been previously inaccessible to me.
Absolutely, yes.
Because the university has very strict guidelines on who you promote to. And then from an artist perspective, it's the arts. There's no money. Yeah. If you're just hearing that now, I'm sorry. There's no money. But it allows me to offer in kind a trade to the artists who can now say that they, when they were here, they were presented in part by the University of Iowa Stanley Museum of Art. And that's a big thing for their CV, because a lot of these people are also in academia.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Vera's been even more kind. She's actually doing more work than I am now that I'm listing these things, which is great. But she's been generous enough to offer the artist private guided tours of the collection while they're here, which, I mean, for as a musician, not having to sleep next to the cat litter is usually your biggest goal when you're on the road. So to be able to offer like a private tour of a world-class art selection with somebody who actually has knowledge about it is pretty incredible. So I am eternally grateful to her for her friendship and partnership with this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's another friend we have in common. She's played for us a few times. Good artist, good.
How do you know her?
We actually met at the Johnson County Democratic Convention in 2016.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Isn't that just Iowa City?
Pretty much. I mean, we're most of the population. But yeah. We met through politics, which is odd.
Yeah, that's a weird way to make friends.
Yeah. So while we're on the subject of Vero, I have a song of hers that we can play to celebrate her artistry.
Excellent.
While we talk about her.
She will be performing as well during the series.
Oh, good. Do you have a date for that yet or not?
I will give you the date after we hear her
track. Yes.
Because I need to get on my phone.
All right, cool. So this is a song that she wrote called Joni Ernst. named after the senator, and it's on an album called 100 Senators, which she collaborated on with a few other artists. So here it is. All right, that was Vero Rose Smith with her song Joni Ernst, dedicated to Senator Joni Ernst.
Surprise, surprise.
It's probably the nicest thing I've ever heard anybody say about her was that song.
Yeah, it's very respectful, despite being, sort of a lamentation of Joni Ernst's activities.
A lamentation of a political figure constitutes respectful dialogue nowadays.
Yeah, for sure. I need to play a Grant spot. I should have done that before I brought the mics up. But here we go. Grant spot, real quick. You guys hear anything?
Nope.
Okay, I don't know. Let's try this one. The Grant spots aren't working.
Uh-oh.
What do you do now?
I don't know. Well, the one that was going to play was for The Mill, so hey guys, if you don't know about The Mill, go check it out.
I actually worked there for a couple of years as a programmer.
Nice.
They do fine stuff.
The Mill is a good restaurant, good music venue, and they support KRUI. So
iHearIC. So
yeah. We do usually like 2 shows a year there.
Uh-huh.
Yep,
oh, cool.
They're a good place. We get a pretty big audience most of the time when we're there.
Yeah. That actually is a good audience for being in terms of open to things that they do not know. I mean, it's probably one of the longest. J9 does one of the longest lasting open mics there, and people like that, and that's a good thing.
Every Monday, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
It's my idea of hell, but, but again, I'm a different.
Yeah, it's a good place to start. It's where you get your chops.
Yeah.
Have you played open mics, Carlos?
No, I've thought about it, but then I never do.
I don't know what the culture is like in Spain for open mics.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I haven't played in Spain that much.
Yeah.
Ever. Because I've been living out of Spain for like 10 years now. So.
Yeah. Hey, I don't know what your career is like. We've never talked about it. What's your experience with open mics, Chris?
I have thought about doing them.
Yeah.
But only in a purely antagonistic, confrontational way. I remember the first time that Loa ever played. Or no, it wasn't the first. The first time we ever did a club gig. Mm-hmm. And it was at Gabe's. And this, like, Hesher, like, just traditional Hesher metalhead dude. Like, there were, like, 9 people there. And I think he was only there to talk to the bartender. But from, like, so we get done, and, like, you know, it's, like, there's just this moment of, like, total silence. Because when you're not playing instruments, people don't know when you're finished. like, you know, I think they actually look to see if the mixer light goes off. And just from the back of the room, and it's like he was just yelling into a cave. He's like, "What the F was that? That was the worst I've ever heard in my entire life."
Nice.
Yeah. And he was like, it was cool though, because he was like genuinely sounded angry and frustrated with what was going on.
Yeah. Unfamiliar with the concept of an open mic.
Yeah. So I don't do a lot of open mics.
Yeah. My friend Stella and I used to crash open mics, and we would just bring acoustic guitars and play like Dio songs.
Yeah.
Just like stuff that would not work at all. It was fun. Yeah.
So are you guys familiar with the comedian performance artist Neil Hamburger?
Oh yeah,
obviously.
Yeah. I've seen him at the Mill.
Yeah. And actually, this is the first time I ever saw him at the Mill.
Yeah.
With the buddy that I was in the wall with, but it was like a snowy Sunday night. I think it was the first time he had played Iowa City. There were like 9 people. Again, the same 9 people. I don't know why that's like my target for a dead audience. But the opener were these 2 old guys, like, you know, white hair and ponytails, sandals with socks on, even though there's like 2 feet of snow out. And they were brilliant because they did nothing but tune their guitars and talk to each other about people that they knew. But nobody else in the audience knew who they like. So you were getting this like half a story. And at first it was like, yeah, these guys hurry up and just play whatever crap they're going to play. And like, but it went on for like 35 minutes. And it was like, these guys are geniuses. And then it turned out that actually they just like, they were waiting for people to show up and nobody did. Okay, so they quit.
Okay, so it was not the act.
No, I thought it was. And it was like, this is like yeah, my 23-year-old mind was just blown at the dedication that these guys had put into crafting these characters.
Yeah, guitar guys.
Yeah.
So we've got like 10 minutes left.
Okay.
Is there anything that you want to bring up before I ask you a question?
Not necessarily. I guess I would go, I mean, I'm not generally an altruistic person, but you sort of have to be to do series like this. It's the same spiel I give to everybody during Mission Creek is, you know, you don't have to like things, but you got to show up to decide if you don't. And it's good to go see things that you don't know once in a while. I don't think you got to do it all the time, but if you're on the fence, just go. You know, you can leave. But, you know, like with a lot of arts and just cultural information that we get, like just showing up is like 90% of it. Because I do think we make these snap judgments on poor representations of what an actual thing is just because it fits within our personal media. that we end up cheating ourselves out of a lot of experiences.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's my vague come see the thing I do.
Yeah, I think that's good. There's nothing worse than playing a show for nobody, which I've done several times.
Oh, so many times.
Yeah, it's not fun. It'd be more fun if someone was there that just hated what I was doing.
Absolutely.
Even if someone's being mean to me, it would be nice to have some response.
I can't remember the 5 people who have said nice things about my music, but I remember that one metalhead like he were in my family.
Yeah. So you alluded to it earlier. You said you've been booking concerts for 15 years. I'm just curious, in Iowa City. Yeah. So you've done it longer than that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, when I lived in Chicago, I worked on some stuff. Like every crappy kid, I booked a bunch of crappy punk bands in crappy basements. But yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just generally curious about your history, how you started booking shows for other people, how you started performing as a musician, anything you want to tell us.
Well, I mean, it's kind of the classic, those who can't teach. And
so those who can't play
book shows. So for me here, and what makes Iowa City great, and I think people don't really get it until they leave, traditionally, from what I've talked to people who've left, is the amount of autonomy that Iowa City affords is something unlike anywhere else, where you can just try stuff. So after my undergraduate was concluded, I was like, crap, do I move back to Chicago? I hate the city. And if I hate that city, I actually just don't like cities. I came, and it was like, but the music I want to see is there.
Right.
And it's like, what if I just see if the music I want to see wants to come here? And where we're geographically located, it's not like people are like, oh, yes, I've always wanted to come to Iowa City. A couple people say that, but I assume they're saying it to be nice. But we're right on I-80. We are the perfect routing. No, we're not a destination.
Yeah.
We're a good place to stop on the way. And so it's been fortunate like that. But yeah, there is a community. Iowa City has actually a long secret history with the avant-garde. Going back to the Stanley Museum of Art. What their collection is, a lot of abstract expressionism, which when they were buying it up in the 50s and the early 60s, people thought they were out of their mind, especially here. People just want Grant Wood over and over again. And, I lived in this house, Captain Beefheart stayed there when he played at Gabe's to 100 people. There's, which for Captain Beefheart, that's 9 people.
Right.
But so, once I started doing it and uncovering a lot of this history, I was like, well, this is actually something I want to be a shepherd for. And even more than that, I've seen so many good shows, and I'm going to sound like a total burnout now, but I don't have a lot of religion. But there are moments of ecstaticism that I have felt during performances that I can only equate to what people who have religion feel, that sort of filling of the vacuum. And I was in Spain, Primavera, I think, one year, and the Boredoms were playing, the stage was right near the beach, and it was 5 a.m. and the sun was coming up, and then there was this crescendo of 9 drums, and it was man, this is one of the closest things I've felt to religion, and being oh, there's something more. And so just the gratitude of having those experiences, I want other people to have them. I don't want to beat them to death to get them, but I want to present opportunities to where others can feel that, because I a lot of lazy people like myself. I have such existential vertigo that anytime I've tried to do volunteering, I just get sucked into just how bleak everything really is, and I end up I can't be a help. But I figure if I can offer a situation where somebody can feel what I've felt, like maybe I can just make things like a little bit better for 10 minutes. And, you know, maybe that's like the capacity of what I've got. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I do it.
Yeah, okay. I like that. Yeah, I mean, you can only do so much to make the world better.
Right.
And it's too big.
Right.
You can't do everything, but you can do something.
Right.
And I think that's like, you know, everyone should try to do something, right?
Yeah.
It's a little rambly, but, you know. Yeah, I mean, that might be a good place to end the show. What do you think?
Yeah,
call it a day.
Cool.
All right. Thanks for coming in, Chris.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Everybody should check out the Feed Me Weird Things Facebook page. That's where you can find all the events coming up. Carlos, do you have anything to plug?
Nope.
Okay, cool. What did I want to talk about? We already talked about the show on Thursday at Trumpet Blossom. If you are interested in seeing a free city municipal band, the Cedar Rapids Municipal Band is starting their season this Wednesday. I run sound for them, so cool. I'll be there twice a week. If you sit near me, that's where it'll sound good because it's the only way I can tell. Yeah, this Wednesday they'll be in a park in Cedar Rapids. I don't have it pulled up, but if you go to crmuniband.org, you can find their schedule, and it's fun. Just hear some band music in parks.
Sousa.
Yeah, lots and lots of Sousa, lots of other marches by other composers, but mostly Sousa. Yeah, that's all that I really have to plug before we go. Any closing words from you, Chris?
Nope.
Okay, I'm going to shut the mics off. My buddy David Clare released an album this week. I'm going to close the show with something that he put on that. It's called The Shattered Dreams Variations. It's the theme is from the song Shattered Dreams by Johnny Hates Jazz. And he just sort of does some different stuff with that. So this is the first variation. It's called A Web of Lies.
everybody. Thanks for listening to KRUI 89.7.
This is Violence.
And Monica Martin.
And you're listening to KRUI, Iowa City, Iowa City's sound alternative.